Now, when is a joke simply not funny? A Saturday Night Live sketch mocking the physical appearance of the British actress Aimee Lou Wood has prompted that exact conversation.
Yeah, the comedy programme imagined President Donald Trump and his top team spending time at the fictional hotel, the White Lotus. And Aimee's character in the programme was portrayed by an actress using a pronounced accent and fake teeth.
So the sex education and White Lotus star called the skit mean and unfunny. In a series of posts on social media, she said, "I did find the NSL thing mean and unfunny. Such a shame because I had a great time watching it a couple of weeks ago. There must be a cleverer, more nuanced, less cheap way. And I am not thin-skinned. But the joke was about fluoride."
Yeah, she said, "I do have a big gap teeth, not bad teeth. I don't mind caricature. I understand that's what SNL is, but the rest of the skit was punching up and I was the only one punched down on."
We are joined now by comedian and star of The Big Impression, Ronni Ancona. Morning to you, Ronni. Lovely to see you.
Morning.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Morning.
Not at all.
And now, over the years, you have done lots of impressions of lots of different people, and at times that would be a caricature of what they look like, perhaps what they sound like. I just wonder what you make of the Aimee Lou Wood sketch.
Well, I have an element, I do have to, full disclaimer, I think she's amazing. And I think she's unbelievably talented, very funny, very talented, and very beautiful, actually. And I do have an element of sympathy with her. I think if you watch the whole sketch, which I have, you know, all the elements are sort of political satire. And then Aimee Lou isn't. It's the only element where it's not about a politician. And I can see what they would have done in the writer's room. They were trying to get about RFK Jr.'s obsession with taking fluoride out of the water and all his conspiracy theories about health, etc. And they would have made this tenuous link between fluoride and Aimee Lou's teeth. And it was a bit of a cheap shot, really, because she's quite right. You know, I'm no dentist, but I didn't think that fluoride changed the shape of your teeth. And I actually think she's got beautiful teeth. I think she was victim of that old archetypal, very tired trope that the British all have bad teeth, which I think we're all getting rather tired of from the other side of the pond, just because she doesn't have a homogenous, cliched Hollywood smile, and is all the better for it, I would say.
It's interesting you're talking about an old trope, because I was going to ask you whether her reaction and the wider outrage suggests that actually it's a very modern-day reaction, that what we're prepared to tolerate as funny is very different now from, say, 20 years ago.
Oh, my gosh, yes. And, you know, this year is the 25th anniversary, would you believe, of Big Impression. Oh, my gosh, I've been around for so long. But, you know, we're in very much a different, far more sensitive landscape now than we were then. And, you know, even back in the day, I always sort of tried to be sensitive. But I also think that there tends to be an assumption that if you're doing an impression of someone, that you don't like them. And that couldn't have been further from the truth. I mean, everybody that I used to do, I actually, you know, used to love and admire, because you had to, because you'd have to sit and listen to them again and again and watch them again and again. And that was unbearable if you didn't like them. For research, if you know what I mean.
Ronni, we're actually watching a sketch of you at the moment where you are being Victoria Beckham. And yeah, just, do you think you would do that today? Would that stand the test of time?
I think it was strange. Funny enough, I think that I regret some of the, I mean, Victoria Beckham. Listen, when we sort of caught the zeitgeist right at the beginning of this big celebrity culture that was emerging, and Alistair and I were sort of making a comment about suddenly celebrities having a huge amount of power and money that hitherto they hadn't had. It used to be kind of George Best rocking up to his grounds for a cup of tea and his roller, but they didn't have all this sort of power and money that was emerging. So it was right at the beginning of this big celebrity culture. So we'd sort of be imagining what Victoria and David would be saying at home together, usually talking about their ices and things like that. But of course, you wouldn't be able to do that these days because of the advent of social media, because everybody knows what everybody's doing all the time. So there's an element of mysticism. So that's what makes parody and satire very difficult to do these days. Because of that, I think I was, there were elements of things. She's an incredible woman, Victoria Beckham, and I think there were elements of things that I wouldn't have done. I was very careful never to say anything about her physical appearance or her weight or anything like that. I'm sure, looking back, there would have been things that I would have gone, oh no, I really shouldn't have done that. But you know what? Sometimes performers, they're seduced by the laugh. And they're seduced by, knowing what will make people laugh. And you've got to be very careful of that. And it's getting that equilibrium, that balance.
And Ronni, you're now making a podcast, aren't you? So at least you don't need to offend people about how you're looking.
Well,
it's just all about the voice.
Well, no, it is, but it is actually a bit of a parody of a podcast. It's called Hal and Ronni in Pieces, and it's about these two neurotic comedians, myself and Hal Crottington. I wonder where I got the inspiration for that. Trying to emulate a successful comedian's podcast 10 years too late, but they're being sabotaged by a Gen Z producer who hates them and being sued by brands saying you can't use our branding in your thing. And they're trying to complete a podcast a jigsaw while talking to celebrity guests. Clearly a brilliant format for audio, a jigsaw. And it does feature some magnificent spoof adverts by Alistair McGowan playing other comedians in it as well. But we are the butt of all the jokes, and not our fantastic celebrity guests. We've got Joe Brand, we've got Omar Jalili, with Sally Phillips, amazing names.
Ronni, it sounds fantastic. Great to talk to you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.